you so much, everybody. I really appreciate King's Group Terry. It really is an honor for me to be here. I'm humbled by the opportunity to be here. And every time before I speak, I'm nervous. Like every time I'm like, my hands are sweaty and my heart's racing. And I for whatever reason, I haven't been able to get past that, or maybe the Lord uses it. But Doug, what you shared, I mean, you kind of jacked my last slide a little bit, but it's all good. But it was such an encouragement to me. The Holy Spirit was like, everything's working out just right, So, and I'm thankful for that. So I know we already prayed, but I'm just going to say a quick prayer too right now. So Father, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for bringing every single person here that's here right now. I know you love them. I know you care for them. I know you want them to have something that you want them to have today. So Father, I ask that I get out of the way of myself and you can do your good work here today. In the name of Jesus Christ, amen. Okay. So I don't know if we got that slideshow up yet, but I talk a little bit about hospitality. Hospitality, customer service, guest relations, kind of interchangeable, but we want to create a space of hospitality whenever we're dealing with a client, a guest, a customer, a visitor, whatever you do, or with your staff. If you have a staff that's engaging with you, if you have human beings that you're working with, you want to create a space of hospitality. So next slide. I was thinking, I've got like a million stories. I've been doing this for 29 years. I've worked in restaurants forever all over the country. And I was like, just last night, I was like, how do I kick this thing? And I thought of the strangest interactions I've ever had with a human being, one-on-one, inside of the hospitality industry. And the first one was the coupon. There was an older couple that walked in. It was a Sunday afternoon. They were probably 75. They sat down, and my server, longtime server, been with me for 10 years. She trained all my staff. She beelined up to me. She was like, John, table 23, I don't think I can handle these people. I'm sorry. And this was not like her. She said, I don't, he is so mean and irrational. I've never seen her so flustered. I said, hold on, Jenna. I said, give me a second. So I walk out to the table and the woman's gone. I think she's in the bathroom or whatever. And the man's sitting there and he's kind of quiet and he has a piece of paper crumpled up in his hand. And I said, sir, there seems to be some issue here. And he's like, I got a coupon. And I said, I never had a coupon. I've never seen a coupon. My business did not do coupons. And I was like, oh, can I take a quick look at that? And sure enough, I opened it up and I worked for a large company at that time. And my location didn't do coupons, but it was our branding, our picture, it was certainly, I go, oh, I said, I see the confusion. Listen, we don't normally do this, but absolutely, whatever you need, it's $20 off your meal. I'll take care of it. He goes, thank you. We'll walk away, tell the server, I said, hey, he seems pretty humble right now. So like, whatever, I think it's going to be good. 5 minutes goes by, 10 minutes goes by, no wife. I go like, hey, can you go look in the women's bathroom? We're looking underneath the stall. There's no feet. 20 minutes goes by. It's uncomfortable, right? He's sitting there just like this. So finally, the server's like, hey, I found her. She's sitting outside on that park bench. And I said, you're like, all right. So I walk out there. I'm like, ma'am, I said, I'm so sorry about the coupon. She interrupted me. She goes, it's not your fault. She's like, he's being an a-hole. But she said the whole shot, and I said, I was completely caught off guard. I was like, oh, I said, well, we all do things. It's okay. We forgive, and I'm trying to get through it. She's like, I go, why don't you come back in? I'd love to get you a hot meal. She's like, she goes, I'm not going back in there and sitting down with that man. And I go, what do you want me to do here? And she goes, I don't care what you do, you tell him. And I said, oh, brother. So I walk back in. So I walk back in there and I go up to him. And he's sitting there. Now I see why he's humble. He's like a 5-year-old boy at this point. And I said, listen, sir, your wife doesn't want to come back. She doesn't want to come back in with you. Like, she doesn't want to sit down. He's like, but I'm really sorry. And I go, oh, he goes, can you tell her I'm sorry? And I go, absolutely. I said, no problem. So it's a slow day. I didn't have much to do. So I walk out there. I go, ma'am, I just want to let you know, you're your husband looks very contrite. He really is apologetic on this scenario. And she goes, I go, he would love if you would just come back in and have a lunch with him. And she goes, all right, I might, I will, but I'm going to need some more time out here. And I said, take your time. I said, no problem at all. Walk back in, and I go to this guy, and I'm like, and now he's like this. And I'm almost up to the table, and he's like, what did she say? And I go, sir, she's going to come back in. She just needs a little more time. And sure enough, he came back in. They had their meal, and I made sure to apply the discount. I was like, I'm not going to jack this up. I was like, take $20 off the bill, and they left. And I'm happy to say a restaurant manager saved a marriage that day. That was very good. Number two, the second weirdest story was, it was a slow middle of the day period, and sometimes I'd be working 12-hour shifts, and I'd go stand against a wall. And I'd lean, there was a little spot, and it was back near the back of the restaurant. I'd stare out a window and just rest. I'd be like, oh, and there was one table, and they were like over there a little ways. And I heard from that table, they go, what a creep. And I was like, oh boy. I said, I'm going to have an issue here. I'm going to have to take care of this issue. I'll give it a minute. And while I'm even thinking about that, they go, what's your problem, you creep? I was like, okay, I got to get to this. And I turn around, they're staring right at me. And I was like, me? They were like, yeah, why are you staring at me, you creep? And I was like, I was looking out the window over here. Like, I was way away from them, and I just left. This one of my staff members was like, they called me creep for like 5 years, and it was funny. But it was just so peculiar behavior. And then the last story was the fire marshal. This is the day I got reamed out, the worst ever in the history of ream outs. It was a busy Friday night. There was probably 50 people in the lobby, 75 people right off in the bar area. There was 100 people out here, a whole staff, probably 150 people around. And this host runs up to me. She's like, there is someone at the host stand, and he is hot. I was like, oh, I got it. I deal with this all the time. I walk out there, and this guy is screaming at me. It was completely irrational. He was calling me an idiot. The business is he said, I hate children. He was literally like, you hate children. You're discriminatory towards families. And I finally just got him a table and I sat him down somehow. It was busy. And I walked back up to the host, and I said, what did you say to this person? She was like, I told him I couldn't seat him at a booth. And while this was all happening, he was yelling at me, and he had a significant other, I'm assuming his wife, and she had a newborn baby, and she was crying and holding the whole thing was really bizarre. And she said, I told him I couldn't seat him at a booth because we can't put a high chair in the walkway. And he said, why? And she said, because the fire marshal told us not to. And I said, did he? And she was like, did he what? I said, did the fire marshal tell you couldn't put a high chair in the walkway? She was like, no, it's just what we say. And I was like, okay. I kid you not. My staff couldn't make eye contact with me for the rest of the night. Like, that's how bad that ripping was. And then, kid you not, 9 a.m. the next day, I call. I'm like, I need to talk to the fire marshal. I was like, what is the law on booths in the alleyway, or in the walkway? So those were 3 stories, and hopefully I'm going to give you some tidbits, some practical tips that I've just learned over the years the hard way, that'll help you maybe avoid some of these problems, and then also connect at a deeper level. So if you could hit next slide for me. The first thing that I've learned is that hospitality does not happen by accident. And I was trying to figure out, what do I talk to entrepreneurs and business owners and leaders and just things that I've really learned. And it's how you set up a space that's safe and good for your employees and the people that you do business with, because you want to be honest with them. You want to be, we'll get to that. Let's go to the next slide. So the next slide is hats. I've gotten a lot of really good feedback. I say a lot of things to my teams. We've got 6 restaurants in Michigan right now, all across, and I've got 6 different leadership teams that I work with. And I say a lot of things to them, and the one thing that I've gotten the most positive feedback on is this thing called HATS, and it's called Manage, Boss, Lead. And I've just said, when you're running a business and when you're operating something, you have to wear a lot of hats, especially when you first start something up. Like, you got to wear a manager hat, you got to wear a leader hat, you got to wear a boss hat. You got to be the janitor. Who's mopping the floor? Who's cleaning the bathroom? If the toilet's plugged up, guess what? Janitor hat. I'm plunging. I just plunged a urinal the other day. So you're just like, things are happening all the time. If you have any amount of human beings that you work with, there will come a day where you need to put on a therapist hat. And I'm not a therapist, but you owe it to you're constantly. And when you're in a high volume situation and you're dealing with people, and you're a young leader, you don't understand time management and what to do to get the job done. And I finally just clarified for my teams. I said, if you can wear these 3 hats and learn them as best as you can, you'll be able to win for me. And so far it's been true. And those hats are, and the last thing is we all gravitate towards a certain hat. Like, I'm comfortable wearing this hat. Like, we're good at it. We have gifts. We have things like that. But you want to be able to take that hat off and get something else done for your people and for your customers and your guests and your visitors and your clients or whatever, and be able to do that properly and do that. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. So the first hat I need you to wear is a manager hat. It's different than a leader hat. The key to the manager hat is you manage systems and process, but you don't manage people. Like, if you manage people, you become a micromanager, and it annoys people. It frustrates people. It's paralysis by analysis. It's like, you don't want to do that. But your business and how you care for people on the back end many times needs a process or needs a system for it to be healthy, for it to be safe, for it to be compliant on what you do. If you're selling a product, an insurance package or whatever, you need to understand what comes with that, not be dishonest by accident because you're ignorant of that product. And as you onboard more people, you need more process to make sure people are getting paid properly, right? You need to make sure you're doing payroll. You need to make sure you're balancing your books, saving your receipts. If you don't have a CPA or you can't afford one, guess who you put on the CPA hat at the end of the year? That's you. You know what I mean? And you got to take time and do that. And I feel like, for whatever reason, the leader hat takes a lot of shine, and it's really attractive and great. But for the people leading my stores, I'm like, I need you to take the leader hat off and put on a manager hat and knock this out and get this done. A couple examples, finance, I already talked about. Human resource issues. Maybe you need to come up with like a harassment policy for your team. Very critically important. You need to communicate those things to those people. And it's not about being a leader. It's about, how am I going to get this done? Make sure everybody sees it. Make sure everybody understands it. And then OSHA is a big one. If you're dealing with any chemicals, people, depending on your industry, for us, it's important. You don't want to put chemicals in the wrong area, then by accident serve them to a guest, or, you got to have that stuff ready to go. And I call that one size fits all. There's one size fits all situations. That's a manager hat type language. And what you want to do is set up that policy, set up that process, set up that system of what you're doing, and then communicate it broadly to people and clearly. So an example would be like a harassment policy, like, hey, I'm having a meeting with my people, and I'm like, everybody, we have a new updated 2022 harassment policy. I want to make sure you all see that. There's a 7-minute video on this. Make sure we get that done by Wednesday night. Listen, you're not micromanaging anybody. You're not nitpicking anybody. You're communicating safely and broadly to people. You're letting people understand what's going on. That's manager hat, right? That's totally what you do. Now, if somebody doesn't get that done on time, if you're going to micromanage them or you're going to nitpick them and be passive aggressive, that's not okay. So there are certain times when you should micromanage, and the one main one is when you're training somebody. Like, if somebody's new to you or new to your company, like, you gotta, like, this is where the bathroom is. this is where you put your purse. This is where you put your coat. This is how you do your job. And it's a good thing to micromanage them for a time, and then you end it and stop. And if they can't figure it out, maybe they're not the right person to be working for you, right? So, all right, next slide. The other hat, this is the hat that I don't gravitate towards, and I've learned this the hard way so many times, is you got to pop on the boss hat. And the boss hat, you got to think of it like, this is how you protect your people, protect your guests, and protect your business. And when you don't do this, bad things happen. I liken it, I teach my teams this, and I say, it's like I'm giving you a sword. I'm giving you the authority to have this sword, and you can either hurt somebody with it, you can hurt your team, or you can use it wisely to protect, to maybe discern and cut something and see something a little bit deeper and dig into an issue. But you want to be very careful whenever you pop this boss hat on. The key here is, you boss situations. It's situational. You don't boss people around. You all have had that boss, I'm sure. You know that human being. The turnover, it's just, you're bad to your clients and your guests and your customers. And some people gravitate towards the boss hat. And they're good people, and they're great, they're strong, and they get things done. And it's a good hat to have, but you can't just walk around hanging out the boss hat all day long and just busting people's chops. That's not fair or good. So I guess the language that I would use would be, you never want to be angry while wearing the boss hat. You don't want to be an emotional, like some people do boneheaded things. Guests, customers do boneheaded things. And it's easy to get mad at them, but you got to check yourself. You got to get right. We'll talk about that later. And you got to make sure it's situational. So you say, hey, listen, we don't do that here. You stole from me. We don't do that here. Whatever that situation is, that way you're not mad at them. You're not taking it out on them. It's a situation. It's an observable behavior, and you're able to have that rationally with them and clearly communicate what your expectation is with that matter. Fair? Sound good? All right, last hat is a lead hat, and this is a big hat. Like, this is the one you want to probably be wearing the most of the time. And I'm actually going to skip over the leadership hat, and this is why, because this is not like a leadership talk, and it's also, there's so much information on being a leader. Like, there's books, podcasts, TEDx talks, workshops. There's a leadership school at this church right now. Like, so I suggest to you to learn about this and grow in that area, but you lead people. That's what you do with people, you lead them. And I found that the best way of leading people is you coach them and you work with them, and you're leading somebody to where you want them to go. Like, hey, we're going this way, and and you don't tear off ahead of them. You're with them, and you're coaching them, and you're having a good time, and you're creating a good ambiance. So I won't belabor the lead hat point as much, because there's just a lot of information out there. I could go into that if it was another day. So, all right. So the second thing I learned, next slide, is that you have to be present with the person in front of you. This is critical. Like, this is where the rubber meets the road with customer service, right? And it takes a lot of work. So on the next slide, I've got a lot of tools that I've learned and just used over the years that have been highly, highly successful. And we can touch on those. The first one on that next slide is enlightened hospitality. There's a restaurateur in New York City, and he's kind of like, everyone looks to him in the hospitality industry as what he's doing. What he says, like, people listen to it. It's like sage advice. And he had coined this term, and I've worked at several different concepts and groups that adopted a lot of this model. But this model is, we put our employees first. And we're in the hospitality industry. Like, we choose intentionally, and sometimes it's hard to put our people first. And the customer's not always right. That's an old adage. And I'd rather start from an honest space of being like, hey, the customer isn't always right. My first 3 stories, customer's not always right. But that doesn't mean we can't love them there. That doesn't mean we can't get past that and meet them in a space where we can be a benefit to them and help them, right? So we put our employees first, and we trust as a business that they're going to pour out onto our customers, our guests, our clients. We trust that process. We're going to give them this training. We're going to talk about these things. We're going to edify them. We're going to pour into them, and it's going to go over to the guests and the clients. And then we trust that that's going to hit the community, and we're going to be a business that's a good for our communities to be around. There's going to be word of mouth. It's going to be a positive impact on whatever cities and places that we do business in. And then after that, we trust that that's going to pour out, and we're going to be able to pay our vendors. We're going to be able to pay the people that we do business with, our purveyors, people that clean our windows and deliver our products and help us with our services. And we can connect with them at a high level. If anybody drives in, dropping off a load of fish to one of my restaurants, like my team knows, like, hey, do you need a glass of water? If there's an extra little bit of food, throw it in, give it. We just take this in the truck, go. Like, we want to bless them. Like, we want to, anybody who walks inside of my building, it's not about a sale to me. It's like, how do I knock your socks off, And that's a huge part of what we do. And that's then the last part of that hospitality model is we pay the bank. We're worried about the last thing we're worried about is paying the bank, paying off the loan, our shareholders, stakeholders, whatever. We trust that'll happen if this stuff happens. Yeah. Hey, y'all have gotten paid by Maru Hospitality Group, all right? It works. So, and this model works, right? This model has worked for me in the past, and it's been successful. How do we do this? Now, the next step is dots. This, if you take anything from what I'm saying practically, this is probably the best thing you can do in your personal life or professional life. And it's the combination of the next two. Dots are bits of information. They are free, people. It is free information. And once a light bulb goes off in your head and you hang out with people are constantly scattering dots. What they're wearing, the shoes they're wearing, where they've been, how grumpy their day has been. Like, people are constantly dropping dots about themselves. And you have an opportunity to pick up and collect that dot. And we don't. I never thought about it until I heard this presentation of this person speak. It's like, when you meet with somebody, a client or a guest or a customer, a really great practice for you to be, when you get done with that, take some notes about all the dots they dropped. It may have nothing to do with your business. They may love to water ski. JoJo loves water skiing. Like, whatever it is. And keep that. That's valuable. It gives you an edge in business. It gives you an edge. You wouldn't believe you're going to meet some water ski team a month down the road. I mean, it's crazy how this works out. The Holy Spirit's all over it. So you want to collect these dots. And you want to connect the dots that you can. Don't be awkward or lie or fake it. But it's ironic how much it's like, oh, I'm going to Alaska next week. Oh, I just went to Alaska. What are you doing? Salmon fishing. Oh, yeah, I was up there. I was looking at snow or whatever you do in Alaska, right? So it's like, it's amazing. And if you can make that little connection, it goes a long way with the people that you're working with, like, and building that trust and that relationship. But the cool thing about it is if you can collect a dot that you can't connect with, we can move to a yes culture. Now, this is huge, and this is very rare in any business I walk into. It's just so rare. Pete's knocked my socks off a few times with his business and his salon and his barber shop. He's done this. He's good at it. So, and it was so rare to me. I even came to you the next day. I was like, I can't believe you did this, Pete. Like, it's so rare to have this happen. But what you want to do is you're listening to people. You're listening to people, and they want something. And you can't do it right now. But if you can find a way to get it done for them ASAP and knock their socks off, their faces I've had people crying inside of my stores. I mean, just so touched. So here's an example for your business. So let's say you're having a meeting with a client or a person, and they walk in, they're scattering a few dots, and like, man, I really wish I would have got a pumpkin latte on the way to this meeting, right? That is a dot. That is like dot. So, oh, great. And you talk a little bit. Give me 1 second. I got to grab something. You go out, and anybody outside in your office or maybe you text somebody that you know, hey, get a pumpkin latte. Can you get a pumpkin latte here, stat? And then you pop back in and you're having a conversation with this person, and all of a sudden, pumpkin latte. Wait till you see their face. Like, they are smoked. Like, they are just like, what in the what? They're like, is this right? And I was operating a team that was so good at this. Everybody was running around the mall that we worked at, like grabbing random stuff. And like, we had a budget. I had a budget for blessing people. You know what I mean? Like, it was that important. Like, and I increased it through the corporate eyes. I was like, I need more money. And they're like, well, you're making a ton of money, so go for it. And I was weekly. I had an account with a florist, right? And I had card stock in the office. My servers would be writing letters and getting people to sign it. And then for anything, with sympathy, happy this, that, rooting for you. And you drop a couple flowers on a table with a card to somebody out of just randomly. It is the most fun part of my job ever. And I encourage you, it takes time to think outside of the box like that. It takes time to listen and just hit somebody with something crazy. And it's fun. So, if you do dots plus yes, there's an actual equation that I have. I put it up, D plus Y equals RF, right? Raving fans, right? You actually make there's a book called Raving Fans. If you haven't read it, you should definitely check it out. It's an older book. It's short. You can read it in an afternoon. And it's just about creative thinking and making raving fans are like your brand ambassadors. They're beating your drum. You're sleeping, they're talking about you. You're working, they're telling everybody about the amazing thing that you did for them that blew them away. And it wins. Like, it wins with customer relations, guest florist, whatever you do. So that is huge. The other thing is I call them pre-shifts. And your employees or the people that are touching your guests or customers generally aren't as invested as you. Nor should they be. And I think there's this weird disconnect from a manager or a leader or an owner sometimes of like, why aren't you as invested as me? And that's an unfair request. That's not even rational, right? They're an hourly employee, or they don't owe the bank anything, They're just trying to, they owe banks for their own stuff, right? So you've got to get this group of people together, and I've taught my leaders this. I said, you got to have somebody working a 4-hour shift with people. You got an hour meeting with a client. You've got whatever. And I need you to be the best version of yourself for that amount of time. So that pre-shift is just grouping people together, refocusing, getting buy-in for X amount of time, and motivating, educating, and inspiring. Those are really the three things that I would do in a pre-shift. It can be one of them, it could be two, it could be three, but we have a new product. We're going through this. Hey, everybody, this is a new thing that we're doing. It's really great. And then you make sure they all know it. Hey, great work. Hey, I want to hear about raving fans today. Anyone who has a raving fan, you get 5 high fives today. And it gets them excited and gets them encouraged, and they're working for that amount of time, and then they can go back to their life and do whatever they do. And if it's just you, if you're a new entrepreneur, I would strongly suggest you have your own pre-shift with yourself. Maybe it's you and your spouse. Get together before you meet with somebody and go over the things that you want to talk about. Encourage yourself, motivate yourself, listen to a podcast that's awesome to you, or music, a song, or whatever you can do, and then you'll engage that person in a better way. One more thing about that, there's a book called Delight Your Customers by Steve Curtin, and it's really cool. It's a good book. And the big nugget I took from that was job function versus job essence. And I must have interviewed 500,000, servers over my career. And this is a typical interview. So we sit down and we're like, hi, how are you? Welcome. I'm so glad you're here. Tell me about your last job. Tell me about being a server. oh, well, I come in and I clean up and I get my section ready and then I talk to people and I take their order and I smile. I'm a people person and I smile and I take more tables and I bring them their food and I say thank you and then I clean up and I do side work and then I go home. And that is true. That is a fact. That is great. I need you to do that. If you're a server, those are the things that I need you to do. That is your job function. That is the bare minimum of what I need out of a human being that's working for me, right? If you can't accomplish said goals, then you can't have the job. If you can do that, good, you can exist here. But I remember, and I'm just being honest, I'm sorry. But I sat down, and this is when this really came to light. I had 2 interviews, I'll tell you about one. I sat down with the gentleman, his name was Chad. I said, tell me a little about your last job in being a server. He's like, I like to smash people for the ordinary. He was like, I like to just wreck somebody's ordinary life with just impacting them in a positive way and taking them to a new level. He was like, I really want to people to come into wherever I'm at more because I'm there and I'm being a positive influence. And I was like, when can you start? I was like, can you work every day? Can you be my boss? I was like, you are amazing. I was like, this is good, and that dude understood job essence. He got it. And I'm proud to say he started a winery out in California. This was years 15. He's trying to sell me cases of wine and he's doing his thing. He's loving his life and he figured out essence, right? So in a pre-shift, I'm trying to remind people about who they actually are and what they're actually doing. So in those pre-shifts, I would say all the time, I'd talk about, we have a new product. We have a calamari. It's great. We're doing this. It's this. And we've done this. Beer battered, whatever. But then I always come back. I was like, remember, the people that are coming into your seats and that are going to be sitting down in front of you, it is not about a calamari. I said, these people just walked out of a cancer ward. These people just buried one of their family members. These people are going through situations at home. These people are sick. I said, and you don't know what people are going through, and I need you to look past the calamari. I need you to talk about the calamari as a tool, but you need to connect with people that are inside your building, and these people are not as invested, and they don't know Jesus, and they're like, dang, John, whoa, they're like, easy, dude, and I'm like, listen, just try it. You will have so much fun. Your job will be better for the few hours that you work here if you think like that. So I kept trying to remind them of their job essence, right? So, and I have to remind myself of my job essence because I could get, work takes over and you get tasky. And you do, and don't forget about the people side of things. Don't forget about why we're here, right? And the last thing on this slide is being authentic with 7:38:55 communication. Verbal versus nonverbal communication. There's a lot of information out there. If you want any homework, if that's interesting to you, search that on the website. There's Forbes, Business Insider, Psychology Today, and a million other websites that are going to teach you about body language and nonverbal communication. But 7% of what you're picking up from me right now are my words. It's only 7%. My words are important. But what you're getting from me is coming 93% of what you're picking up from me has nothing to do with what's coming out of my mouth. And that was convicting when I first heard it. Because we all want to talk our way out of everything and cram as many words. We just do. We think it's so important. But at the end of the day, it isn't. Words are powerful. I'm not saying that. But the 38% of what you're picking up from me or what people that are around you are picking up from you is through your tone and your facial expressions. It's like your mom always said, it's not what you say, it's I always say it is so true. It is, and it became so true to me with my kids. I'm fine. I'm not fine, gang. I'm stressed out, right? With my team, your tone is so critically important, and what your face is saying isn't matching your words. There's an issue. And then the last part is the 55, and that's the body language piece, right? There's so much information. This is where you need to do homework, because I've done huge segments just on body language with my teams, and every time I get done, people come to me like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so uncomfortable. I do that." They're like, "Oh my gosh," and they're doing that right now, or I'm talking about. And there's so many crutches and things that you do, but it's 55% of what you're communicating. When you're sitting down with a client, when you're talking to a guest, a customer, like they are reading you up and down subconsciously. And you don't know it. So I'm going to show you a few things, just a few quick ones of the big ones that I did. I'm closed off. I'm not open. And it's probably due to an insecurity inside of me. I'm feeling inferior in this conversation. I'm not really invested right now, nor do I want to help you. Bad in the hospitality industry. The fig leaf. It's subconscious. You don't know that you're doing it. You feel vulnerable. You feel uncomfortable. You feel exposed, and you're protecting yourself. Just be aware that those things are happening. The other big one in the hospitality industry is, for me, and this is where I really failed because I'm busy a lot of the time, is your feet point to where you want to be. Whoa. How many times am I talking to somebody? Hey, yeah, I really care about you. No, not really, not at that point. And even if you're sitting down in a meeting and you're like, yeah, right, Johnny K's like, he cares about me right now. So if you're sitting down in a meeting and you're kind of laying and your feet are pointing out the door, that's not the way you want to engage a human being, Like, so, and when I'm visiting a table, I'm in. I stop, I'm in, even if it's for a minute or two. And then I move on. And with a staff member or my kid, I'm cooking, I'm doing whatever. Then I got, how are you, son? What can I do for you right now? So the big downfall of this as a leader or of people or with your guest or making a sale or whatever you're doing, if your words are not matching your tone and your body language, you are being ingenuine and authentic. And consciously or subconsciously, you will lose trust with your people. And I learned this the hard way, and it's taken a lot of work for me to change my body language to be honest. Such a better response with a staff member, with my family, with whatever, is being aware now of where I'm at. And I've said this, 20 times this year. I don't even know. I'm like, hey, listen, I'm super stressed out right now, but it's not you. It's not you. And I'm going to deal with it, and we're going to have a good day, but Dad needs a minute. Or I got to tackle this situation with payroll, and I care about it, but I need a minute right now. And that's such a better way of connecting with people and building a team. It's for me, it was wickedly eye-opening. Like, not wickedly, blessedly eye-opening. So, all right, the next slide. The last thing, and this is an obvious point, but there's no shortcuts. Like, you can't shortcut it. You can shortcut some things in life, I'm sure, but when you're shortcutting this, you're actually shortcutting another human being, if you think of it like that. And let's go to the next slide. It just takes disciplined practice. Like, to be vulnerable for a minute, like everything I just said is great, and it's been successful for me at times, and it's hard at times. And in the restaurant industry right now, it is really challenging. Like, I wish I could tell you that this was all perfect for me. I wish I could tell you, like, we're operating at a high level at all 6 of my properties that are doing that, and it's just not. There's evidence of it happening. There's fruit. There's beautiful things happening. I've got great people working for me, but I need 100 employees right now. I'm not kidding. Like, I need 100 people. Job board. Well, maybe we'll talk about that. Yeah, I'm like handing my cards at Subway. I'm like, hey, it's crazy. And my people are stressed. They're overworked. They're frustrated. Inflation's happening. They're like, I can't even pay my bill. There is something going on right now that's super difficult. And I just want to be honest about that with y'all. And it takes disciplined practice to keep coaching, to keep talking, to keep this up, to keep it going. It doesn't happen by accident, and you can't skip a step, or you lose people, or you lose sales, or you lose things. I'd say this, probably the most thing I've said to my leaders is, you got to get your heart right. That's a code word for something, because this is in church. I'm like, you need to get with Jesus every morning. Like, you have to go. Like, you have to go. And I feel it incredibly cavalier for me in my career right now to walk outside of my front door and not be feeling the presence of heaven before I engage with people. Like, it is, and I'm not humble bragging. Like, I'm saying I can't do it, or it hurts too many people. Like, I feel like it's that important for me to create a space before I connect with a human being. And I'm not a routine guy, but I do have a rhythm. I do absolutely have a rhythm. I try to get there. I make a playlist I use Spotify, and I call it Abide, and it's instrumental music that stirs my spirit. And I listen to that most days. And why? Because I'm getting in a rhythm. And I know it triggers me into the kingdom fast, because when I wake up, I'm tired, I'm not in it. And that helps me get there faster, and it's not about fast, but like, I want to get to heaven on earth in the morning as fast as I can. Like, I need it right now. Like, I always do. And it's about, reading the word. And I always try to start with something thankful. Like, that's hard. Some days you feel like you can't have anything thankful going on. And it's as simple as like, Father, thank you for that cardinal outside my window right now. I'm not kidding. Like, that some days that's the thanks, Thanks, I'm breathing right now. Like, and you start, and it builds, and some days your worship, you're like, hallelujah, yes, thank you for everything. But you've got to start there and begin. At least I do. That's what I do. And I read the word. I make sure I get a nugget, and I'll massage something into my day for that day. And I think that's really important for connecting with guests and visitors and clients and all that. And I'm glad that you asked me to come, because it made me think about this a little more. I was challenged by it. And I thought of, like, what is the end goal spiritually of hospitality? Like, what am I really trying to do? And I walk back in my mind and in my heart, and I remember when I met Jesus, and y'all got your salvation story right. Y'all got your born again moment. Like, when Jesus met me, he was hospitable to me. He met me where I was at and loved me in my mess. And he served me. He served me all the way. He had all my dots. We're talking about connecting dots. Like, he knew all my dots. He created a yes for me. He found a way to see. He said, yes, I love you. You're welcome here. And it created an ambiance of, like, I was welcome. I was invited into an experience of goodness. And I think although it's perfect and impossible because I'm not Jesus, if I could try to mirror that for the people that I walk and connect with every day, I think by the end of the day, I could feel like it was a win. So, and the last point I have is that each one of us, in the spirit we have a story, right? We're writing our story as we go along. And really, it's almost like you have a trajectory of where you're going and what you're doing. And your stories get to connect with other people's stories along the way. And they change you and they make things better. You can be edifying. You can be a positive force with your story. And I guess the longer I've been going on in my career, and my industry, I've been able to meet and connect with so many people, thousands and thousands of people. And I feel like I'm humbled by the fact that I've been able to do that. And I guess when I walk out and meet somebody, I want to remember what an honor and a privilege it is to be able to do what I do, to be able to connect with somebody. People are sharing with you their most valuable asset, their time. And if you're not consciously thinking of that before you meet somebody, I'm not as good as I could be. So just keeping that cognizant and thinking of that is something that I've thought about in hospitality. And that's the end of my talk. So thank you very much. Yeah.